Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
8:36 now. It's O'Connor and Company. Coming up in 30 minutes, it's Chris Plant. I'm Larry O'Connor. She's Julie Gunlock. We are kicking butt this morning, Julie. Are you excited?
Oh, always.
Thanks.
But not convincing. I'm sorry. I should have been more enthusiastic.
Yeah, man.
Of course I'm excited.
Anthony Fauci. We've covered lots of aspects of Anthony Fauci's testimony yesterday. News stories and mixed messages and finger pointing having to do with the vaccine, its effectiveness, what they knew, what they didn't know. Also, same with social distancing, masking. But then there's the origin story. You know, we were told we have a natural occurrence, maybe bat soup at the wet market in Wuhan. Don't pay any attention to that lab, though. And don't pay any attention to any gain-of-function research that the taxpayers may have been paying for at that lab. Here's an exchange with Jim Jordan that finished one part of the questioning.
Do you agree that there was a push to downplay the lab leak theory?
Not on my part.
Really?
Really?
Wow.
Wow.
I think most of the country would find that amazing. I still got 11 seconds.
Well, look at the facts. I've kept an open mind throughout the entire process.
All right. I yield back.
Let's look at the facts. Joining us right now is the man who was the point person for Secretary of State Mike Pompeo to get to the bottom of the origins, Dr. David Asher. Doctor, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I remember interviewing Secretary Pompeo during the pandemic when he said very early on, I want to say it was April or May, he said, listen, China's not cooperating. They're not showing us any of the original strains of the virus so we can look at the DNA of it, that we can help. They're not acting like a global partner actually interested in helping people with this virus. They're acting like a country who has something to hide. When you were tasked with this, what did you discover with regard to the origins of this virus?
Well, I mean, the first point is the Secretary's point he made to you that there was absolutely no transparency or information flow coming from the Beijing government to the Secretary's office. We were trying to even, get meetings with the ambassador for China here in Washington, and we couldn't. They wouldn't talk to us. I mean, it was like they were sending us a message. This is something that they were somehow culpable in. You know, there's a sort of look of guilt. It's like when your kids do something wrong, they sort of dance around it. This is the way the Chinese are acting. I mean, they just were like, don't ask us. We can't. I mean, at one stage, I actually met with a senior Chinese official with several other colleagues, and he said, and I knew the guy for years because I worked on East Asia policy starting under Secretary Powell as his advisor. He said, just don't ask. I can't tell you what happened. I mean, it was basically the mission that they had been ordered to cover this up, which we know they did. I mean, nobody destroyed samples on January 3rd of 2020, really before even the Chinese fully understood, I believe, the scale and scope of what this could do to their own population. They were destroying samples from not just the wet market in Wuhan, but from hospitals all over the country. So they obviously knew then exactly what they were facing. And our suspicion is that as of mid-November, at the latest, there had been some sort of lab meltdown in the Wuhan, in Wuhan, and it may have involved more than one lab, by the way, where they had a leak and it started spreading among the population of workers, and they covered it up. But the thing is, what they started with was a synthetic version of COVID-19. This is the key point that should have come out yesterday, that the Chinese were working on synthetic biology to build all sorts of dangerous vectors, we call them, related to weapons of mass destruction. It wasn't necessarily a bomb being dropped biologically, but it was designed to cause huge amounts of damage, which it did. But it wasn't supposed to get out. When it got out, they covered it up. So it's they're still guilty.
And that didn't come out yesterday. And Dr. Asher, this is what's vexing to a lot of people. If that's the case, and if that's what the findings are, and that's the most likely occurrence here, why on earth would the top virologist and a person within the U.S. government's health policy protocols, Anthony Fauci, why would he appear to downplay that? Why, or at even worst, cover that up? Why would he not be as motivated as you are to get to that and get the word out unless we were in some way involved?
Well, we were involved. I mean, there's no doubt. I don't think we caused COVID-19. But did help create it. We didn't create it deliberately for it to be released, but the gain-of-function research that everyone's heard of was being applied at significant scale, starting really around 2015 at the Wuhan Institute with the aid of NIAID, Fauci's outfit. Fauci figured that out around February 1st. He knew full well they'd been funding dangerous gain-of-function research to create a novel and dangerous
February
coronavirus.
1st. February 1st.
Of 2020, I should say.
So this is 6 weeks, 7 weeks before 15 days to slow the spread.
Yeah, but he knew that he found out, he was briefed on it, and he panicked, and he's like, holy, crap, we're going to get blamed for this thing. So he went through he began with a systematic scientific cover-up. And whether he actually paid to play the scientists that did the reviews that said it came out of nature, after they all initially said pretty much, 85% of them said it came out of a lab leak and looked bioengineered, they magically switched in 3 days. And then all of them, literally every one of these scientists who was involved, got big grants from NIAID in the months that followed. I'm sorry, I'm not saying that Fauci is guilty. I can't make that determination, but there's too many circumstantial pieces of evidence here that he used money to try to sway the debate. And let's not forget, what was he trying to protect? Everyone in Washington knows that Fauci ran a huge kingdom. $38.5 billion in biodefense research money had been spent since 2002, when I was involved in the response with Dr. Fauci to the anthrax attacks. You spend $38.5 billion and you can't detect, disrupt, or even diagnose COVID-19 as it emerges. What are you doing? And I think Fauci, it was not just him being blamed, it was the fact that his whole effort was a failure. And so he decided to cover it up. But why anyone would do that, given the public health ramifications? It's really disturbing, and some people would say it's disgusting.
Some people would say it's borderline criminal, and
yeah, potentially. But why? And also, who put Fauci in charge? He wasn't supposed to be in charge of any pandemic response. He's the immunology guy. He's supposed to develop drugs and long-term therapeutics. Stuff going out decades in advance. He's sort of the scientist charge of research and development. It was Bob Cadlick and Bob Redfield at CDC. Those guys, we used to call them the Dr. Bobs because they both are experienced practitioners of virology, and they'd spent their careers preparing for a pandemic. We had a pandemic, and who gets shunted aside? Both of them.
Somehow Fauci becomes the face of it, the voice of it, the media superstar of it, and anyone who diverges from what he says is ostracized and called anti-science because he is science. We got to leave it there, sadly.
Cadlick and Redfield thought it came out of a lab, so they were marginalized. That was
unbelievable.
No doubt. I was there.
It can't end with this hearing yesterday. We need to have a full-blown, completely transparent investigation, and let the chips fall where they may. Dr. David Asher, thank you, sir. I wish we had more time, but we just don't. Thank you, sir.
No, take care of him.